Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I want to convene our public hearing for Commerce Committee. I want to welcome the members of the committee as we continue to work towards the session's agenda. I think we've got a relatively light lift on the day today, but certainly heavy topics to consider. We'll be working during the course of the session on a number of these issues. We'll be taking testimony from, I believe I've convinced our Department of Economic Community Development to talk towards the issue on brownfield remediation, which is toxic soil is near and dear to my heart, emotionally, not physically. And a couple of the other issues, I know that we have people coming in to speak, so I'll turn it over to my co-chair.
Try. Somebody, how's that? Good afternoon, all, and welcome. This being our first, as I think you may have said, public hearing, and our next one will be on the 24th. And so, yes, love to proceed and hear from our speakers today. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, I believe that takes us from the remarks of the chairs in ranking. Thank you all. Our first speaker up today on the bills for review is Senator Sujata.
Yeah, I'm on Zoom.
Yes. They're correcting me on that I've used the first name, Senator Sujata. So Sujata Gadkar-Wilcox. Please go ahead.
Thank you so much. Honorable Chairs, Senator Hartley and Representative Meskers, Ranking Member Senator Martin and Representative Aniskovic, Vice Chair Senator Rahman and Representative Kitt, and distinguished members of the Commerce Committee. I'm here to provide my strong support for Senate Bill 133, an act establishing the Connecticut-India Trade Commission, an act which strengthens the bridge between Connecticut and India. And I'd just like to put in a special thank you for Senator Hartley for her assistance and support in putting this in. I speak before you today, not just as a senator from the 22nd District, but as the child of Indian immigrants and the first Indian senator ever to serve in this storied body. I'm aware that my presence here before this committee, and in fact in the Senate, is a testament to the changing face of Connecticut. And opportunities for state exchange and global collaboration have been opened up recently with the many changes to federal trade relations. We should be able to step into that gap and with policies that lead with the strengths we bring as a state. The arc of history, as I say, does not bend on its own. It's bent by the hands of those willing to look for new opportunities and bring about new possibilities. Today, we have that opportunity to do the work by passing Bill 133. Senate Bill 133 is more than just a trade policy. It's a recognition of deep cultural, educational, social, and business ties between the United States and India. In fact, many of the democratic principles in the Indian Constitution were informed by the U.S. Constitution. India and the U.S. share a long friendship, a storied history, and most importantly, a deep connection through immigration and cultural exchange. In fact, 1 year before Indian independence, President Harry Truman signed the Fulbright Act, which enabled the exchange of students, faculty members, teachers, and researchers, building collaborative partnerships that paid off for years to come. I received a Fulbright Award to study constitutional law in a comparative context, looking at both the Indian and U.S. constitutions. And that act enabled me countless opportunities for continued educational dialogue, and it alone established years of robust cultural exchange and mutual understanding between nations. The Indian community in Connecticut is one of the most vibrant demographics in our state, with nearly 70,000, 68,000, a little over 68 South Asians of Indian origin. The second largest Indians are the second largest foreign-born population in Connecticut, and proportionally among the states of the United States, the seventh highest population of Indian residents in the entire United States. So the Connecticut-India Trade Commission will create new avenues for Indian companies to be able to choose Connecticut as their American home, to be able to have new collaboration. We have an abundance of shared opportunities in sectors like aerospace, manufacturing, biotechnology, and green energy. Unique opportunities for educational exchange as well, considering the quality and number of colleges and universities throughout Connecticut. By establishing a formal commission, ensure that these exchanges are not left to chance, but are nurtured by a dedicated body of members from our higher education institutions, chambers of commerce, and the Indian American community itself. Other benefits of the Connecticut India Trade Commission is the ability to actively promote investment and commerce between Connecticut and India, test mutual interest through collaborative state-level action, to facilitate partnerships between our world-class universities and India's leading academic institutions, to establish mutual support for manufacturing, trade, building a long-term infrastructure that addresses contemporary cultural and market demands in both regions. By supporting Senate Bill 133, we're signaling that Connecticut is open for meaningful collaborative enterprise, and I urge my colleagues to support this historic step going forward. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to speak today.
Thank you very much for your testimony. I think it's notable to have you in our assembly as a senator. So, Senator Gadkar-Wilcox, I want to thank you for your testimony. I'm a proponent. I think you spoke eloquently towards the bill. I personally don't have questions, but I'll defer to my co-chair first if you have any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And thank you, Senator Gadkar-Wilcox, for bringing this concept before us. And it's particularly interesting to note that on a national level now, for a number of years, there have not been trade agreements that have been established. And so what has happened in the interim is that many states have initiated trade commissions in order to strengthen relationships, foreign relationships, both in terms of commerce, R&D, higher education, and the like. And so our conversation today about a potential Connecticut Indian Trade Commission is a continuation of what this committee has been pursuing about strengthening our relationships, growing our economy, and investing in diversity. So thank you for bringing this to us, and we look forward to its evolution. Thanks very much, and thank you, Mr. Chair.
You're welcome. Any questions from the
Thank you,
committee
Senator.
members? Do we have any of the committee members online with questions?
I'll make one more comment if I can.
Okay, go ahead. Madam
And
Co-Chair.
just to make one more comment for the purposes of my committee and this proposal, as well as another one that is on our agenda today, is that our challenge is to how we construct and staff and man such an initiative. So that's going to be the issue that we're going to be wrestling with. I don't think it's conceptually about the Trade Commission, but more doing what we would have to do it properly. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. Next up, to maintain concurrence, it'll be Senator James or Senator James Maroney. Since I managed to do it wrong the first time, I want to be pari passu. Do we have Senator Maroney available?
He said he's going to be here at 12. He's coming in person. So
Okay. I'm expecting him to come in person. We'll be going back to him. Next up, we have Matthew Pugliese from DECD, the Deputy Commissioner. And I believe we also have Binu Chandi from DECD, Executive Director, Office of Community Development.
Good morning, Representative Meskers and Senator Hartley, Representative Aniskovic, and Commerce Committee members. Appreciate you having DCD here today. We have submitted written testimony. I'll spare you all from rereading that into the record. Would like to start with just making sure that we're all on the same page in terms of what brownfields are. So brownfields are abandoned, underutilized, blighted properties that have environmental contamination, and that prevents them from easily being sites that are redeveloped and reused. And the DCD Brownfield Redevelopment Grant Program is all about putting these sites back into productive use. And I want to thank the Commerce Committee. Over the last many bienniums, you have continued to advocate for the Brownfield program and put more funds towards DECD to administer through the Brownfield program. And we have done a very good job at doing that. We have been able to, in each year, get all of those dollars out the door. As we'll speak to when you ask questions, we have a very healthy pipeline of projects that come in through that program. And brownfields are sites that no two look the same, no two are dealing with the exact same problem, but they exist in all 169 municipalities throughout the state, and they provide different challenging opportunities. And it's a great place for the state and municipal government and private enterprise to partner together to find ways to put these sites back into productive use. The goal is to facilitate redevelopment at these sites so that we see sites that already have infrastructure, already are oftentimes located at key intersections and locations throughout a municipality, back onto the tax roll with productive end use, and also eliminating public health concerns at the same time. So it's both economic development and public health benefits that come through this program. So we'd be very happy to answer any questions and go into greater detail on the program.
So this has been a particular interest of myself and the co-chair and our ranking members for those specific reasons. In Commerce, as our mandate is economic development and growing the state's economy, and we have a number of abandoned or sideline properties that need remediation. I'm concerned, and that's why I wanted you to come in to speak. I'm concerned given the heroic efforts led by my co-chair, Senator Hartley, on the Transfer Act, that we're going to be in a position to look at a number of properties that previously weren't available for development or hadn't been certified or worked on, that the demands for brownfield funding are going to far exceed our ability to provide them. So I guess my framework from brownfields in conversation with you, when I first came on board with Commerce, where we were dealing about $50 million a year, or biennium, $25 million a year. I think then we upped it to $35 million biennium, up to 70, and currently we're at 40 per biennium, or 80 million in total. Can you go through and explain it to both the committee and to the public? So the scope of brownfield remediation that currently, the funding sources, I assume there's some money that is either earmarked or dedicated at DEEP as well, but I'm not aware of what the size is. And I know that some money comes through with either community block development grants or CIF funding, but I assume that that's not dedicated and is more arbitrary. So I want to look at the constant sources and get your review on that first. That would be my first question.
All right, thank you very much, Representative. I'm joined by Binu Chandy. She's the newly appointed Executive Director of our Office of Community Development. We've merged our Office of Brownfield Remediation and our Community Development, all of our capital grant programs together to try to find some internal efficiencies. But Binu has been running the Brownfield program excellently over the last many years, and she has these details right at the top. So,
thank you, Matt. Thank you for the question, excellent question. And I want to echo Matt's gratitude and appreciation for your support of the Brownfields program. Yes, our main program, you've authorized $80 million for fiscal year 26 and 27. That's the Brownfield program. And we have 4 sub-programs under the larger Brownfield program. One can apply for brownfield grants, loans, assessment-only grant, and planning program. Apart from that, you alluded to the DEEP program. That's the Urban Sites Remedial Action Program. We do utilize the USRAP in collaboration with DEEP for projects that don't fit the program parameters of the DCD Brownfield program. The authorized funding, I may not be right on that. We can get back to you. It's, I think, 20 million for fiscal year, 20 million each for fiscal years 26 and 27. And as you said, the CIF program is also available for some brownfield projects that need more than the 6 million max that we can provide to projects under the brownfield program. So what we do at DCD is we look at what the need is for a project, and we layer these different funding programs based on eligibility and the size of the project.
So my second question, probably at some level more delicate, because as always, we always deal on, with yourselves coming as agents of the executive office with a proposed budget. So here, the question is a little more pointed. So I'd like to know what your application process, when it's open, when it closes, what the demand look like for the 26 year, or this 26 fiscal year, and the 27 year. How much has been demanded? How much have you would qualify and you've turned down, and how much is in the queue? Because I assume with money on the table, you could have 500 million of applications, and 300 million has credibility or substance to it, or 200 million. So I'd like to know what the gross applications look like. What do you think has merit? What can you attend to? And what do you think the unmet demand looks like?
So the last round that we had, we received $54 million in application requests. We received 24 applications. The previous two rounds were also similar volume of application requests. We do have a competitive funding process. We score the projects, and we also look at shovel readiness. Projects that meet the threshold criteria and some minimum scoring requirements, we put them on a firm award list or a conditional commitment award. So after last round we gave out 28.2 million for 16 projects, and we also gave out conditional commitments for approximately 16.9 million. So we are 100% committed. Whatever money was allocated by the Bond Commission, which is 30 million of the 40 million authorized by the legislature for this fiscal year, we are almost fully obligated with the firm awards and the conditional commitments.
If my math's right, you're overall at 44 million.
That's right.
Okay.
With conditional commitments from this last round and the previous round, we are up to about 47 million. And the balance authorization that we have is about 47.5 million. And
From delays in prior years' authorizations?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the demand is coming in,
Mm-hmm.
it's exceeding your funding. It's a question of this cash flow demand from the projects that you haven't fully allocated the funding, because you're waiting for the bonding and you're waiting for the projects to get shovel ready. Is that
Exactly.
Is that right? Understand?
Right. We provide the conditional commitment to projects that are really strong, but maybe have one or two other dominoes that need to fall for it to be able to press go. And so by providing the conditional commitment, the municipality and the developer don't have to come back through the formal application process, but once they get the planning and zoning approval, or once the sale is finally executed, whatever, couple of bullet points need to be knocked out for DCD to be able to press go, that conditional commitment can come back at any time. So we're making it more business friendly, that when they're ready to go, when they've met the parameters that Banu and the office have outlined, then they're able to come back outside of the normal process. And that's why we have to have a balance between what we award that are hard projects that we're ready to go today, and the projects that might come back tomorrow and say we're ready to go.
And I don't want to anticipate further conversations of the overall agency requests, but I think we were talking about potential increase in the size of the award, the individual award, going forward.
It's been increased from 4 million to 6 million.
Right, and that, I'm assuming that should increase the number of larger scaled demands that come through the system. And I'm wondering if if you had to anticipate, where do you think your backlog of books go, or where do you think your backlog of demand goes? I mean, are you looking at 60, 80? You know, right now you're at somewhere around the 44 to 50, 54 million of demand. You didn't quite classify to me, was the 54 million
54 million in total ask.
and 47 were meritorious? Is that the way I should go? Or was it by order of scaling, you could only accommodate the 47?
No, 47 is from this round and previous rounds.
Right.
For this particular round, if we just look at this particular round, we gave 16 projects for 28.2 million.
Mm-hmm.
And out of that 28.2 million, 4 of the 16 projects were conditional commitment conversions from previous rounds. That was about 12.8 million. Then we also gave soft conditional commitments for 17 million.
Yeah,
So
I guess I'm
about
not being
20
clear. I'm sorry to interrupt. I'm not being clear, I think, in my question. My understanding is the overall demand was somewhere around
54.
54
Yeah,
million.
yeah.
So my question is, without specific criticism of projects, were they all meritorious and it was just a lack of funding? Or was this, would you have awarded all 54 with the right allocation of funding, or was there a problem with some of those applications? I'm
Yeah.
trying to establish what real demand is.
So out of that 54 million, I'm trying to do the math quickly, about 35 million were projects that we decided were meritorious and should go forward. The others were not even shovel-ready. They may have, come to us. We are placing a lot of emphasis on cleanup and redevelopment project come to us with a full package. So there may have been some applications that were just for cleanup and that didn't meet the minimum score for that particular round. So the demand for this last round, even though we received $54 million in application requests, about 33 million was what we said met that minimum scoring criteria.
And that 33, how much of that was awarded temporary or conditional?
Out of that, 16.9 was conditional commitments and 16 was firm awards.
So about 32 out of 37?
Yes.
So at the very least, you're 5 million short on a funding basis at least. You know, I'm trying to figure out where we go and look for awards for future years for demand. And I'm hearing there's unsatisfied demand for brownfields. And I think fundamentally, as a state, getting properties back on the tax rolls, whether they be brownfields or gray fields, for housing, for offices, for mining, or for office space, workspace, I think is super important. So I'm trying to get a scope idea of where we think we need to go.
And we can provide all the numbers from the last several rounds in terms of what the hard commitment, the conditional commitment, and what the application is, so that way the committee can view it. The other thing I'd like to highlight for everybody is that we also have a planning and assessment grants that we do through the competitive round, and that allows us to continually to develop a pipeline of projects, so that when a community has a site and they know that it needs to be cleaned up, but they don't have a developer or an end use necessarily, target or identified at that point, it allows them to get resources to be able to go through the right processes to answer those questions and really bring forward a shovel-ready project. So even in a round where we might not do a lot of dollars towards hard cost cleanup projects, we might be doing 10 or 11 planning projects. The last round that we announced in December was very planning heavy, which means that down the line, in about a year to a year and a half, we will have a lot of shovel-ready projects that come forward from that. And that goes back, multiple years in terms of project pipeline development.
So in layman's terms, you're telling me you're out there doing the research, doing the planning, doing the programming. That's going to lead to a significant increase, you would anticipate, in demand.
It'll lead to a steady stream, I think, at the very least, in terms of demand.
Okay.
And just to add, even the projects that we are not funding or we don't think that met that minimum scoring criteria, Those projects are also at some point will become real, economic development projects, community development projects.
So most of the scoring issues related to shovel-ready.
Shovel readiness and,
So that would be reflective in the report, be helpful. I'd like to know what is potentially demand once it's shovel-ready. I want to understand that the pipeline is properly funded, both from developmental
Yeah.
to the bonding. And my sense is, you've managed, every time we increase it, you manage to empty my wallet, and I mean
Yes.
that in a constructive way, because you're moving projects forward. So I'm questioning whether we've reached the right saturation point, and that'll be the question we have to determine from the prerogative of the legislature.
If I can add, to your initial question, Representative, talking about what the increase in the total amount might do to the pipeline and how quickly we allocate those funds in each round. One of the things that we do have to keep an eye on, and we're not really sure how it's going to make a change, is with the release-based cleanup standards that we passed last session. They do have cleanup standards that apply to brownfield properties, and so specifically when you think about the managed multifamily housing provision and also the urban fill provision in those new cleanup standards, those are areas that when we talked with developers in the 2 years in advance of the release-based standards being passed, those are two of the areas that developers talked about the most significant savings on brownfield projects that would convert sites to housing. And so the whole goal of us moving to the release-based system is to decrease those costs. So right now, as the development community and municipalities are adapting to the new standards, that's something we're going to have to watch to see how that drives projects, if we're seeing everything stay the same, or if we're seeing some sort of downward trend in terms of the requests.
Well, you're suggesting that it could decrease the cost per remediation,
Correct.
but the converse of that is the ease and the fluidity may increase the numeric number. The demand may go up significantly.
Yes.
So that's the thing we have to monitor. Right?
More sites could be in play because it's easier to move those forwards, but some of the costs that the state would be putting dollars towards might diminish.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for my co-chair?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thanks for being with us, and congratulations, Manu, much
you.
deserved. I hope they're not going to stretch you too much. You've got
I
a
hope so.
backbench. Yeah, no, I just want to, first of all, give Matt, yourself, and the department a big shout out with regards to having finished up our work, we think, on the Transfer Act. Great progress that took, in no small terms, 25 years. So yes, we are trying to anticipate now how this all plays out, and of course we don't know, it's much too early on that. But I would just ask you if you have any commentary. Also, we had this whole conversation about the vertical build in the definition of the Brownfields program. Is it too early to see how that is playing out?
I think it is a little bit early to see what the real impact is. We've been communicating with our partners, the municipalities, very consistently after last legislative session about the changes that we achieved in Connecticut last year, but it still takes time for people to really internalize that and understand it and start to apply it to the projects that they already had in the pipeline. So I think it'd be a little premature for us to comment.
Yeah, okay. And so, as you could understand from, the colloquy from Representative Meskers, we're very concerned about making sure that we have the bandwidth now to go forward, having laid all of the policy in place. So that we want to stay very close to. And how many rounds do we do a year on brownfields?
2 rounds.
2 rounds.
Yep.
And they're typically what, the fall and?
Yeah, we announce in the first round in the year, we announce in January, February, and make award announcements in May, June.
May, June.
And the second round, July, August, and November, December for the awards. So we're trying to be, regular on those announcements.
Yeah, and I know, we're talking about a lot of numbers. I'm just curious, what is the number, the dollar amount of private money that's leveraged by the Brownfields program? Because I know that it just has continued to escalate, and I think it's a pretty stunning
Yeah.
indictment, not indictment, but affirmation of the program.
Yeah, so the average leverage, if you look at DC dollar to the other dollars, it's 1 to 13. For this last round, the private investment was 1 to 13, and other dollars was 1 to 15.
And so that's every dollar of brownfield grant funds leveraging $15 of non-brownfield grant funds.
What's the difference between private and non-brownfields?
The non-DCDs, it could be Department of Housing,
Oh,
SHAFA
okay.
dollars, all the public dollars, federal dollars, tax credit,
So that's a-
everything included.
Okay,
But if you
combination.
only look at private investment, this last round was 1 to 12.57.
Yeah, it's a great number for people to understand. And there was a reference to the Grayfields program now. Is that a different tranche of money?
Yes,
Yes, it
the
is.
Grayfields program is a different tranche of money. As we are working right now to stand that program up, we're looking to model it on what works with the Brownfield program. So we want to have planning and assessment grants for municipalities to be able to do the studies and get buy-in from the local taxpayers, but also the development partners, and make sure they're bringing shovel-ready projects forward. So we're going to have that same sort of planning and assessment versus a hard cost project program. And then we also made very clear that the Grayfields program is not going to be duplicative on the Brownfields program. So we're not looking to fund a site that could get Brownfield money and get Grayfield money. It needs to be one or the other.
And what's the timetable for that?
DCD is looking to, by the end of this fiscal year, stand up the assessment and planning grants for municipalities, and we're working to put a RFP out right now for a consultant to help us structure a loan and grant to structure the loan and grant and tax credit incentives that we could use in the right mix to make sure that we're getting that same sort of leverage that we have in the Brownfields program.
So we're talking July.
Yes.
So July, the RFPs will be on the street for the municipalities?
So by July, the RFP, the notice of funding for a municipal grant round will be open.
Okay, because that's something that I think we've probably all been very anxious about, trying to get involved in our communities. As you drive through every single city, and then second-tier cities as well, you see the effects of post-pandemic changes in work patterns and the dormant real estate, which it's kind of like a ticking time bomb. So this could not be more important. And I, once again, want to take my hat off to the department on this initiative. So important, so needed. Could you just comment for us about your working relationship with the Brownfields Task Force?
Sure. So we have the Brownfields working group that is co-chaired by Gary O'Connor and Ann Catino, and we meet with them regularly to identify issues within the kind of the Brownfields subject matter and bring those forwards. It was that working group that was really instrumental last year in identifying some of the issues that we fixed in our Brownfields bill. Trying to clarify the cleanup and the abatement portion in statute very clearly versus vertical development, so that we could make the appropriate determinations on how a project is phased and moved forward, and where public funding goes into that project and where public funding stays separate on that project. Really provide clarity with the Department of Labor in terms of any determinations on wage rates on the project, and that predictability and certainty is what development needs to move forward. And so the Brownfield Working Group was really instrumental in working with Binu in her office and looking at the actual projects that had come to the agency for several years and stopped being just a one-off, but showed a pattern that needed a legislative fix. So we appreciate the working group there. DCD is also involved in the Release-Based Working Group 2.0. We will be a co-chair. That working group is going to be looking specifically at how the release-based cleanup regulations are being implemented and where we are encountering challenges that might need fixes in not next biennium, but I guess in the biennium after that, as well as working towards a more direct solutions to how Transfer Act properties might be able to get unstuck. The legislation that passed last year does have a bridge out of the Transfer Act, but brownfield projects, Transfer Act projects, no two are the same, so that bridge isn't going to apply to every single project, and so we really want to work through the legal and the developmental liability complications that come with those so we can find an instrument that's going to affect as many as possible.
Thank you so much for that update. And also, I want to recognize the presence of DECD in the capacity of co-chairing 2.0 on the Transfer Act Working Group. And while we're on that subject, we talked a lot about who the members of that working group would be, and I've yet to see the formal name list of working group members, and if you could share that with us, we'd be very grateful.
We can do that.
Yeah, thank you very much. And, I just will draw a parallel here with our conversation about Transfer Act and how we recognized, not initially, I will admit, when this whole conversation came to this committee, we kept saying, no, that's not our lane. But it very clearly was demonstrated the economic impact of this act, which was an environmental hazardous act on the state's economy, and hence we put together this very strong working group and relation, and we've, many miles have gone. I will say that it is also very clear that this conversation about energy is very similar to the conversation we had about Transfer Act, where energy is bedrock, foundational into the state economy. So while clearly it is all about energy and technology, it is also about the state's economy. And we look forward to continuing that conversation, certainly this session. So thank you very much for being with us and for all the work. Oh, I do have one last question. Banu, you talked about we've got the 40 million and then you've got the 4 programs, but there was a $20 million pot. Is that a DECD or is that the US RAP?
That is a US RAP program. It's the monies are allocated to the DEEP.
Yeah.
But how the program works is DECD makes recommendations for projects. So if there are good projects that come in a competitive round, or if we are aware of a good project in a distressed municipality, the program is only for distressed municipality projects. We will recommend to DEEP, and if DEEP agrees, they put a request to the bond commission.
So the primary difference is that is for distressed municipalities.
Yes.
But very similar to the overall program.
It is very similar, so we try to reserve those that funding for much larger, former industrial site type of projects.
So is there federal money there?
No federal money. It is.
But it's called
state.
US RAP.
Yeah, it is called Urban Sites Remedial Action Program.
Oh, okay. All right. And what is the recapitalization of that tranche?
It depends upon the, legislative authorizations.
And do we do that biannually or?
By biennium, yes.
And has it been a baseline 20 million each biennium?
The last biennium, we got maybe 5 million each fiscal year, but we were able to spend down whatever was authorized, and so this biennium DEEP received, I believe, 20 and 20 for fiscal year 26 and 27.
And is it, one of the criteria is that it has to be a formerly industrial site?
Yeah, mostly, large factory with very significant issues. So we reserve that funding for projects that don't fit the brownfield program funding criteria, which is mostly, projects that are shovel-ready to have a reuse, redevelopment project.
And do you, is it like the Brownfields program, typically draw that entire allocation down?
We strive to do that. Last biennium, we were very successful in drawing down the full amount, and that is our goal by the end of fiscal year 27 to draw down the full amount.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
I believe Senator Miller is online and has a question.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. And I hope I'm not out of order. I'm chair of the Bond Commission, and I'm the Senate chair. And so I've always been curious how you've spent down the fundings that we authorized. And so my question, I'm listening to you, it seems like there's a need for more funding. And I don't want to put you on the spot. And if you can send me that information, I would appreciate it. I'll be interested in knowing how many requests, the number of requests that you have that you can't fund and you can't assist. Is it possible to get us that information, get the committee that information?
Sure, we can share the pipeline of requests that we've had over the last several rounds in terms of what was requested and what was conditional commitments and what were hard cost commitments.
Thank you, Matt. Because there seems like, just listen to the conversation, it seems like there is a need, a greater need than what we are able to, and I'm not going to, what we're funding. And so I know some communities like Waterbury, Bridgeport that had industrial sites do need remediation and brownfield remediation. And even some, I have a housing development here where SIF suggested that they go to have brownfield remediation. So I would really appreciate that information because I think it's very important to make sure that you're funded so that you can do the work that we need to do to clean up these sites. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Senator Miller. I think echoing the comments you get from the chairs in terms of support for the remediation. Do you have any questions from a ranking Representative Aniskovic?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Can you just speak to, so like when the announcement goes out that the grant funding is available, and knowing that there's thousands of these properties all over the state, how do we get out that message to the municipalities to know that some of this funding is available?
So we've built up a really good contact list. So the Brownfield office pushes out that information to the municipalities. We push it out to the councils of government. We put it out to the Brownfield land banks. All of those are eligible entities. We also have developers and development partners that are on our list, our contact list as well. And then we also share it through the agency's LinkedIn. And I can tell you that, when I repost what Banu and the office put out on my LinkedIn page, separate than the DCD page, I just see all of the different parties, municipalities, CCM, cost, et cetera, that are sharing that information. So it definitely is getting a lot of visibility.
Good, thank you for that information, because it's important, obviously, to know that once this information does get out and it gets out to all the responsible parties, that when we're asking for funding and increasing for funding for these projects, that we make sure we have some accurate information.
And I would just add, Representative, we had a meeting I think it was last week, with EPOC, the Environmental Professionals of Connecticut, and we were not talking about our brownfield program specifically, but in the conversation it came up, how much that they appreciate, how much of a national standard they were talking about the Connecticut program being. And so it's also great that the environmental professionals that are doing that work with the developers and with the municipalities, they're very well aware of Binu and her team and the work that we do at DCD that the legislature makes possible.
Great, thank you for that information.
Are there any further questions? Representative Centinella.
Thank you. So I'm wondering, do you have any statistics that demonstrate what the property value looks like on the other side of the development? So you take a blighted property that is not producing for a whole host of reasons, make this investment. On the other end, there is a completely remediated property that is now contributing. Do you have statistics on the delta and what this money is actually doing to contribute to local communities and getting these properties back on the tax rolls?
Yeah, there must be data available, but we don't have it. When we do request potential applicants to give us what they think will be the appraised value post-development. So we ask them, what is your appraised value now? It usually is a minus something number, and then what is your appraised value?
Well, I think it would be really helpful for us over time to kind of put these
Yes.
statistics together, because, you know, listening to the conversation, this is all very well and good, right? We're doing really good things to help
right.
remediate these properties, but to be able to show that this is not all just money out, right? The trajectory is to eliminate some of the burden that these properties are causing on local communities and the whole host of other activity that comes from this, to be able to demonstrate that there's a real end benefit to local taxpayers, local communities, and so on and so forth. I think it just adds a different context to what this money actually does beyond just we're remediating a brownfield. And I think if we could start putting that together, it would be a really nice button on this story, because I think it's a really good story that we should all be able to tell. So if we can work on that, that would be great.
Yeah, I agree. That's a
So-
really good metric to show the success of the program.
Agreed.
Thank you very much. I might suggest it might be as easy as going through the awards, and we have these curious people with the felt garters in every town called tax assessors. And if we give them the addresses of the
Yes.
projects and ask them for the assessed valuations of those properties now, we might be able to get it right from the assessor's offices. And then that might be able to automate it, versus going back to a developer who's since disappeared from the face of the earth, right? The way they incorporate and disincorporate the project. You go to the assessor's office, if you've got a zip code and an address, he'll tell you if it's a productive property and what the assessed valuation is. That'll
Agree.
help, I think. I think that'll get us to that question, so I think best way. Any other questions from the group? Thank you very much for coming and testifying. And again, I will echo my co-chair's thanks for the work you do. You were so helpful when we were wrestling through the SHPO issue for the exact same thing, to get economic decisions done successfully. And you've done a bang-up job so far, so I appreciate all of your support, your work for the, even though it's for the executive, we appreciate it here in the legislature. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I believe now I bring forward, as Senator, I could start with Senator James, as they called the last senator by the first name, but Senator Maroney, please come up.
Thank you very much. Chairs Hartley and Meskers, Vice Chairs Rahman and Kitt, and Ranking Members Martin and Aniskovic, and esteemed members of the Commerce Committee. My name is James Maroney. I'm the state senator from the 14th District, which encompasses Milford, Orange, West Haven, with my good friend Representative Heffernan over there, and Woodbridge. I appreciate the opportunity to submit my testimony and to testify in full support of Senate Bill 132, an act establishing the Connecticut Germany Trade Commission. I want to thank the Commerce Committee for raising this bill. I will be submitting my written testimony. I haven't submitted it yet, but I'm just going to summarize some of what you will see in that written testimony. This past November, I was honored to be able to attend a a legislative exchange trip in Germany. And in preparation for that, was doing research on our economic ties. And I had known that Germany was one of our top 5 companies for export. We export annually over $2 billion of services to Germany. I think it's approximately 17% of all of our exports to foreign countries. But what I didn't realize was that Germany was also tops in direct foreign investment in Connecticut. There are over 100 companies that are owned, German-owned, and they support between 12,000 and 14,000 jobs in Connecticut. And we already have a number of established partnerships with Germany. Advanced CT hosts a trade mission there in 2024. Governor Lamont visited Germany. And we have at UConn, there are Eurotech and Eurobiz majors. So the Eurotech is a German and engineering major. The Eurobiz is a German and business major. But this I see as an opportunity for us to deepen that relationship and to establish a direct relationship between the legislature and Germany as well. Similar to what this committee did when they created the Irish Trade Commission, modeled off of that. It would be an effort at trying to further deepen our ties with the hopes of improving our relationships and increasing direct investment. I would just make a few suggestions for appointments to the Trade Commission. I had the opportunity to speak with the German Consulate General in Boston, Consul General Sonia Tribich, and she had made some recommendations of other people who may be on this committee. So we are fortunate in Connecticut to have an honorary consul, Jan Sutherland, who represents, who's a liaison between Germany and Connecticut and Rhode Island are her areas. Her name is Jan Sutherland, and she will be submitting written testimony. So I would recommend we include that honorary consul general as a member of our Trade Commission. Also, there is a Chamber of Commerce, the New York German Chamber of Commerce, which covers Connecticut. So we do reference a Chamber of Commerce, but we may want to include them as one of the appointments, as well as, since we do have those programs, the Eurobiz and Eurotech programs at UConn, I would recommend perhaps we include the co-directors of that program as a member of this Trade Commission. Professor Anka Finger is one of the co-directors of the program, and she will be, I believe she signed up to testify later, or if not, she will be submitting written testimony. And finally, Advanced CT. When you go to the Advanced CT website, they do have a page dedicated to the Connecticut-Germany relationship, and I believe they do have someone who's in a liaison for that area. So I think having a representative from Advanced CT on that commission would also be a good idea. So with that, I thank you for raising the bill. I thank you for the work you did in creating the Irish Trade Commission, and I look forward to working with you to hopefully create a German Trade Commission.
Thank you, Senator Maroney. I think welcome your testimony and support here today. I'll just make I don't know if I have a question or an observation. I think the challenge we'll face in commerce is the staffing and support and ancillary work to make sure we have a functioning trade commission. And the secondary piece of that is, I'll make a land grab in commerce where we raise the bill that I'm hoping that it gives rise to legislative action that would be, to my mind, generally through the Commerce Committee, because it's in the interest of fostering further business between Germany and Connecticut. I think the challenge we'll face will be those issues of staffing, the administrative support, depending on how, I guess the word be constructive or aggressive, both in a positive way, that the meetings are held and the activities involved. I'm finding that I'm a member of the Irish Trade Commission, claiming some ancestry, but also basically from my role on commerce. And it's a pretty robust group, and we're just beginning to dig in for what I think will be a very ambitious agenda. And we'll have to have that conversation, and we welcome your input here, because we'll have to have the conversation of the administrative support from the legislature, the House and the Senate, in terms of, clerks or assistants and website and emails and meeting rooms, et cetera, so we can host the activities that I appreciate. I appreciate all your thoughts. I don't know that I have a question, but if you want to comment on that, I appreciate it.
No, thank you. I look forward to working with you to try to come up with some ideas that we can facilitate the meetings if we do establish that commission, and looking, at perhaps having some outside groups as co-chair who may be able to provide some support. And then back to the Irish Trade Commission, if there are any openings, the members of the Irish Club in my town frequently reach out and ask if they can get
For an
appointed
appointment.
to that trade commission, so.
We'll take it under consideration. Thank you, Senator Moroney.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Senator Hartley?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Senator Maroney, for bringing this forward to the committee. And I will note that we already have some very robust testimony that's been filed here with the committee clerk, which is all in support and also very explicit about the importance and the benefit that this would bring to our state. Senator Murray, do you know, are there any other such trade commissions in other states that exist already? I mean, when we did the Irish Trade Commission, for example, we had the New Jersey model, which
Right.
had been, pretty well established.
That's an excellent question. I'm not aware of any, but I will get back to you. I know there are German Chamber of Commerces throughout the country, and they split up the various states, but I'm not aware of any trade commissions. But I will check on that and get back to you.
Well, that would be helpful. And Germany has been a very important partner to this state, and you point out the number of employees, in life sciences, in manufacturing, and we have talked a lot, actually, about their manufacturing protocol and model. So it would be very interesting to, have that more at hand and talk and work with them. And also to further scale this relationship in view of the fact that there have not been trade agreements that have been established with, international companies in quite a long time. And we noted earlier, because we did have testimony on the proposal for an Indian Trade Commission, that states have gone off on their own to form these relationships in view of the void that exists and has existed for some time. So this is a very interesting proposal, and we'll have to work through the the actual logistics of standing up an operation that is going to work and sustain itself. So thanks very much. We look forward to your written testimony to share with the members who maybe couldn't be with us today, and for the suggestions here with regard to putting together that actual membership. So thanks.
Thank you very much. I look forward to working with you.
I'll go back one last time, just as a question. Were you speaking from your notes? Because I'm hoping, because you were detailed on the suggested appointments, or was that from memory?
They're in my notes.
Good, perfect, because I was worried that I would have had to recreate all of them.
Yeah,
So thank you, I was
no.
worried about the appointments. We'll definitely take them, I won't
Yes.
guarantee, but I'll take them all into consideration. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Thank you very much, Senator
Thank
Mooney.
you.
Next up, we have Paul Amarone.
Good afternoon, Senator Hartley, Representative Mesker, Senator Martin, Representative Aniskovic, and members of the Commerce Committee. Thank you for the opportunity to testify today. My name is Paul Amarone, and I'm a Senior Policy Director of Job Growth and Manufacturing at the Connecticut Business and Industry Association. I am here today to offer recommendations on multiple bills before the committee, and I've also provided written testimony with more details for reference for the committee. First, on Senate Bill 131, an act concerning manufacturing. Connecticut's R&D tax credit is a valuable tool, but it does not reflect how modern businesses are structured. More than 97% of Connecticut businesses employ fewer than 500 people, and roughly 90% have fewer than 20 employees. Many of these businesses operate as LLCs, S corporations, and sole proprietorships. These pass-through entities dominate startup and early-stage ecosystems, especially in manufacturing, biotech, and software, yet they are excluded from fully utilizing the R&D tax credit. R&D includes everything from developing new products, improving manufacturing processes, building and testing prototypes, and enhancing energy efficiency. Allowing pass-through entities to claim a 6% credit on qualifying R&D expenditures would align tax policy with today's economy, improve cash flow for small manufacturers, and make Connecticut more competitive with regional and national competitors. Moving on to House Bill 5145, an act concerning the Department of Economic and Community Development. We recommend establishing a small business AI grant fund modeled after the existing Manufacturing Innovation Fund. Artificial intelligence is transforming every sector of the economy, but small and mid-sized businesses often lack the resources to adopt these tools responsibly and effectively. This fund should be administered by DECD, guided by a public-private board, structured as a non-lapsing fund, and include performance reporting to ensure accountability and effectiveness. We also recommend creating a small business concierge within DECD. Small businesses consistently report difficulty navigating grants, regulatory requirements, and state programs. A centralized point of contact would help improve access, reduce frustration, and increase the return on taxpayer-funded initiatives. Third, on Senate Bill 132 and Senate Bill 133, CBIA strongly supports establishing trade commissions with Germany and India. Just last year, Connecticut exported approximately $17.4 billion in goods and imported roughly $22.7 billion in goods. Expanding strategic trade relationships, notably during a time of a rapidly changing economy and the uncertainty of tariffs, will help manufacturers grow, diversify markets, and remain competitive globally. And finally, on House Bill 5146, an act concerning brownfield remediation, Connecticut currently has more than 800 registered brownfield sites spanning more than 4,200 acres. Brownfield programs have successfully leveraged multiple dollars, as noted in earlier testimony, in private investment for every $1 of state funding. Most recently, the General Assembly included $40 million annually in fiscal year 26 and fiscal year 27 in state bond authorizations for brownfield remediation through DEEP. These investments create construction jobs, permanent employment, expanded tax bases for our municipalities and state, and revitalize communities, notably in underserved and underutilized towns and cities throughout Connecticut. In closing, these proposals modernize our innovation policy, strengthen small businesses, expand global trade relationships, and return vacant properties to productive use. Thank you for your time, and I look forward to working with the committee on these recommendations moving forward.
Thank you very much for your testimony, Paul. I think I've heard most of these suggestions, or we've spoken about them, so I firmly embrace where you're coming from. I think that's very good. I think the only slight addition I would bring to this is when you talk about the interaction with DECD, concierge service, et cetera, and I just want to encourage this, I want to bring this to you as you walk around the building to the various committees. One of the I think the problems that I see, and your suggestion is the concierge service to do introduction, walk through, connect people with the services, the small businesses. I think the other issue that I would like you to focus on is that the feedback loop with those concierge services or introductory include a response to process. Because what I find is whether we do a concierge service there or whether I'm the advocate in the executive office for a larger industry or a problem, is that many times we fix the issue and don't fix the process. So I want to be a strong proponent that we think about, we want to make, ultimately the goal of creating a concierge service is that it dissolves eventually because the service and the process become so transparent that we don't need an intermediary. And I fully agree that we need the intermediary. Question is, how do we grease the wheels so that is no longer an essential function, right? How do we make that one-stop shopping easier? So that would be my one observation on your commentary, that I find that in process here that needs work. So I appreciate your suggestion. Any other questions?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thanks for
thank you
being
very
with us, Paul, and for all of the advocacy on so many subjects. But I just wanted to ask about something in your testimony on the brownfields remediation bill. You talked about the city of Hartford as leading the way with brownfield sites. Have you kind of done a geo map in terms of where our brownfield programs are? And what's the top 10%? Is it all the big cities? I mean, are we getting, it's very important, obviously, and we saw this with the Transfer Act in terms of the number of properties that basically were in the smallest of communities to our major Connecticut metropolitan areas.
Yeah, so you're correct. The majority of the brownfield sites are in what you would consider cities. You look at 70, 80 years ago when manufacturing was a booming sector, the industrial, even going back to the Industrial Revolution, cities like Waterbury, Bridgeport, New Haven, Hartford, really hubs for business and industry. So unfortunately, a lot of those brownfields are within the cities, with Hartford and Bridgeport leading the way. I mean, you could take a quick drive in any city and you could see those blighted properties that are just sitting there with really no purpose. So I think if we look at a map of the state, you would see areas in New Haven, Hartford, Bridgeport, Waterbury as some of the top ones, and then some of the less populated cities coming in right after.
Yeah, that's what I was surmising. And then with regard to our conversation on the R&D tax credits, and we've talked about this very often, it's almost counterintuitive. These are the small employers who don't have the ability for the R&D, but yet it's their lifeblood, as opposed to the big guys who have those that capacity. How do we compare with other states with regard to this program?
Yeah, so I was just actually having this conversation earlier. It's kind of mixed in the region. So Massachusetts and New York do not extend down to pass-through entities for R&D tax credit, but Rhode Island and New Hampshire do. So see it as an opportunity for Connecticut to not necessarily take the lead and be a first of its kind, but to fall in line with some of our neighbors and to just make our business and economic environment more competitive for small businesses and for startup businesses that are looking to invest in research and development of their facilities, of their machinery, and any sort of operations that can help move their operations forward.
And so the underlining conversation why we haven't and others have not extended to these pass-through entities is because it's viewed as it being a personal benefit. How do we get past that? How do we demonstrate that it's not?
Yeah, well, CBIA, we have hundreds of manufacturing members. A lot of them are pass-through entities. And I believe we heard testimony, maybe you wouldn't consider it testimony, but a couple weeks ago at the forum from one of our members. It's a stigma that it's kind of like this big, corporate thing that the business owner is going to take it and write it off for themselves. I think when we hopefully have a hearing in this committee and in other committees on R&D tax credits being extended to pass-through entities, we will have business owners of these manufacturing facilities that we speak of come and talk about the operations and the different R&D opportunities that they have, but they can't do because they simply can't afford it because it's a very capital intensive sector. So there is certainly that stigma that it's this personal kind of business greed. But these are small, a lot of family owned and startup companies, some that have been in the state for hundreds of years. And those kinds of companies are really the lifeblood to enhancing our defense sector, to being the supply chain for our defense sector. And I think when we have hearings specifically on the R&D tax credit expansion to pass-through entities. I think you'll hear from some of those business owners on what exact programs and upgrades they plan to utilize with the R&D tax credits.
Thank you, Paul. We look forward to having this conversation continue.
Excellent. Thank you so
Mr.
much.
Chair.
Any other questions? Thank you very much, Paul. And next up, we have remote Vanita Balia, or Balia. Vanita, if you're still on, you'll need to unmute.
Thank you, sir. Good afternoon, honorable members of the Connecticut General Assembly Commerce Committee. Firstly, I want to thank you for your work to grow Connecticut's economy. Secondly, I thank you for the opportunity to offer my thoughts. I respectfully submit this testimony in strong support of Senate Bill number 133, which proposes the establishment of the Connecticut India Commission. The creation of this commission represents a strategic and forward-looking initiative designed to create meaningful engagement with the state's Indian and broader South Asian communities. I've submitted written testimony, but as a member of the Indian diaspora, I care enough about this topic that I wanted to make a few points in public testimony. I have been told that there are 32 Asian American communities here in Connecticut, including Indian and South Asian communities. From physicians and engineers to small business owners, educators, researchers, and public servants, this vibrant, dynamic, and rapidly growing community contributes meaningfully to our state's economic vitality, cultural richness, and civic life. Today, we have an opportunity to strengthen that contribution through the creation of a Connecticut India Commission. The purpose of such a commission is straightforward and powerful: to serve as an advisory body to the Connecticut legislature, ensuring that policy decisions are informed by expertise, lived experience, and strategic foresight. Across the United States, states such as New Jersey and Illinois have recognized the value of structured engagement with their Indian American communities. These states have established formal mechanisms to cultivate trade, cultural exchange, and educational partnerships with India, one of the world's fastest growing major economies and a critical global partner. Connecticut should not lag behind in positioning itself strategically. Yes, this would require an investment of resources, but it is strategically valuable. A Connecticut India Commission would be composed of members representing diverse professional and disciplinary backgrounds, trade and investment, higher education, technology, healthcare, cultural institution, social services, and government affairs. This multidisciplinary composition is essential. It ensures that recommendations are not narrowly framed, but instead reflect both international economic priorities and the lived realities of Connecticut residents. At its core, the Commission would provide informed, nonpartisan guidance. It would advise the legislature on trade opportunities, foreign direct investment, academic partnerships, workforce development, and cultural diplomacy. It would also serve as a conduit for community concerns, those 32 communities, whether related to small business development, professional mobility, student engagement, or civic participation. Importantly, institutionalizing this engagement matters. Informal consultation is valuable, but formal advisory structures create accountability, continuity, and transparency. They allow expertise within the diaspora to be systemically leveraged for the benefit of the state. This is not about representation only, it is about strategic and smart governance. Connecticut stands at the intersection of advanced manufacturing, biosciences, financial services, and higher education. India's expanding economy presents complementary opportunities across these sectors. By establishing a commission, we send a clear message. Connecticut is prepared to engage globally while remaining deeply attentive to the communities that call our state home. In summary, the Connecticut India Commission would enhance our legislative insight and economic opportunity. It would affirm our commitment to inclusive representation. It positions Connecticut not only as a state that values diversity, but one that strategically partners with it. This is not merely symbolic, it is pragmatic, forward-looking, and aligned with Connecticut's long-term interests. Thank you very much for allowing me to speak.
One, thank you for staying on for not that long a meeting. God knows we've had longer. But thank you for your contribution, for your thoughtful presentation, and your advocacy. I think you can hear echoes, unfortunately I think mine less eloquently, but echoes of your thoughts in our willingness to consider this and to raise this subject. So I appreciate your commentary. Are there any questions for the speaker?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Vanita, for being with us and for your very complete testimony in support of this proposal. Can you just, for the committee's edification, tell us, you mentioned that you were a member of the Indian diaspora. What is the role exactly that you have in that committee?
Well, it's actually a way that we describe the great immigration from India, or I should say emigration from India, immigration to the US. I came here as a young child and I continue to have a foot in both cultures. And I'm very proud of working within different groups to enhance the exposure and the representation and the resonance of those cultures across boundaries.
Well, thank you. I have now been educated about this. Appreciate it, and look forward to having a continuation of this concept. Thank you.
Thank you very much. With no further questions, I believe next up we have Rohan Raghupathy. Did I get that right? Yeah. Good.
Good afternoon, Senator Hartley, Representative Meskers, and members of the Commerce Committee. My name is Rohan Raghupathy. I'm a junior at Trumbull High School, and I'm here in support of Raise Bill 133, establishing the Connecticut-India Trade Commission. Even though I'm not an economist, I am an Indian American student who has grown up watching how global trade quietly affects everyday life in Connecticut. Near my home, families regularly shop at stores like Patel Brothers and Bharat Bazaar, and to some people, they may just look like specialty grocery stores, but to me, my family, and my community, they're connections to a culture and nation that we left long ago. Every few weeks, new shipments arrive from overseas, such as rice, lentils, spices, cooking oils, and products that have traveled thousands of miles just to sit on the shelves of Connecticut. And over the past few years, I've noticed a shift in pricing and how my parents have talked about it at the dinner table. I've noticed how store employees have quietly mentioned that products can't be imported into their stores due to the cost of shipping them overseas. And these shifts aren't just global, and they affect thousands of families in Connecticut. And it's not just grocery stores. For example, across Connecticut, Indian American entrepreneurs run hotels, franchises, medical offices, IT consulting firms, and engineering companies. They hire Connecticut residents, pay Connecticut taxes, and at the same time maintain a working relationship with India. Trade between Connecticut and India is already happening. It's real, it's local, and it affects families and small businesses. That's exactly why this bill matters so much. It has an impact far wider reaching than just some simple grocery stores. By facilitating more structured trade with India, not only will said specialty goods be cheaper and and have a wider array of products as well, but we'll also be able to get more products for a cheaper price. This bill provides a structured and practical way to coordinate trade with the world's fastest growing economy, supporting local businesses, increasing economic opportunity, and helping this great state take steps into the global economy. Thank you.
Thank you very much for coming to speak. I appreciate you taking the time out of your day for your strong advocacy. And I think the commentary was reasoned and thoughtful, so I really appreciate that. So as a note, personal note, were you born here or born in India?
I was born here. I lived in Shelton for over 5 years and then moved to Trumbull.
Okay. Well, I'm very glad to see you here in front of us and supporting the bill. Are there any questions from my Vice Chair?
Rohan, thank you for coming. It's more of a comment. I just want to thank you for taking your time out today to come speak to us and to become involved in exerting your civic responsibility by making your voice heard here. And if I'm not mistaken, you're part of the We the People team, correct?
No, I'm applying for it right now.
Okay,
I'm a
well-
junior, so
Oh.
hopefully next year.
Well, then I look forward to seeing you next year at We the People, and thank you for being here.
And as the last, and what year are you in now?
I'm a junior.
Okay. Well, I wish you the best of success this year and survival in the first semester of your senior year as you apply for college. I know what a delightful experience that is, so I want to wish you the best of luck. I think our next, if there are no other questions, our next speaker is Anivarth Parthasawati. I hope I'm close.
All right, good afternoon, Senator Hartley, Representative Meskers, and distinguished members of the Commerce Committee. My name is Anivarth Parthasarthi. I'm a high school senior from Trumbull High School, and I just went through my first semester of senior year, and I like to say I survived through it. But perhaps most importantly, I'm a Connecticut resident of Indian origin. And today I'm here to speak in strong support of the Connecticut India Trade Commission, which is raised Bill number 133. Connecticut and India already share robust economic connections that demonstrate the potential of this trade relationship, with major Indian companies like Infosys and Tata Consultancy Services already having a prominent presence within Connecticut. And even last year, Governor Lamont led a Connecticut delegation on a week-long economic mission to India, where they visited Bengaluru, Mumbai, and my home city of Chennai in Tamil Nadu to meet with industrial leaders and ultimately deepen their business ties between Connecticut and India. And this delegation featured participation in things like Venture Clash India and the signing of a memorandum between Connecticut and the government of Tamil Nadu to expand cooperation in key technology sectors. And I'd like to think that Connecticut's socioeconomic ties with India are equally as significant, with Indian-born residents making up one of the largest foreign-born populations in our state. And India is currently the #1 country of foreign students studying for higher education in Connecticut. And this has only led to an increase in Indian-led small businesses in Connecticut. And I believe that this trade commission between Connecticut and India would only catalyze their growth. And as a Connecticut resident of Indian origin, I have been lucky enough to be a part of the wonderful Indian American community here in Connecticut. And consequently, I have witnessed firsthand how exactly our state benefits from the contributions of Indian-led businesses and professionals. And growing up, I watched local businesses in my community thrive thanks to their connections with India, and stronger trade ties, I believe, could multiply these opportunities for jobs, innovation, and cultural exchange within Connecticut and India. And these stories and companies are clear indicators of just the sheer potential between this economic relationship between Connecticut and India, and something that I believe can only be explored further. And a Connecticut India Trade Commission would help Connecticut businesses tap into one of the fastest growing global markets, and while also encouraging Indian companies to strengthen and grow their presence here. With that said, I respectfully urge the committee to support this bill and invest in a structured way to unlock the full economic potential of Connecticut's partnership with India. Thank you for your attention to this matter, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
I'm thrilled to see that you've gotten over the hurdle in what I assume was the application process and are now just waiting. I think your comments about the contribution of the Indian American diaspora, the Indian American population that's settled in the United States, and the contributions is well documented. Personal experience, I can't think of the amount of support and friends I've met within the Indian community and the tremendous contribution they bring to our society. So I think there's a lot to be doing going forward. I look forward to seeing what we can do. Is there a particular focus? You spoke in very broad terms. Are there any specific focuses or recommendations you would make for the committee? Of one particular item or two items, narrowing your focus? You were very expansive, it's helpful.
Yeah.
Do you have a particular axe to grind, as they say?
Well, I think one of the greatest benefits of this trade commission between Connecticut and India would be the access to technology in specific that we get, because as I mentioned, Infosys and Tata Consultancy Services are two Indian technology companies that have a presence here in Connecticut, and they've been allowing for their IT consulting services and offering them to Connecticut businesses, and this has only grown the technology businesses of Connecticut, and I think that's something that can definitely be expanded upon with this trade commission.
Thank you very much. Any other questions from the committee?
Thank you. Oh,
Again, I just want to congratulate you for being so engaged in the process, and I'm just so proud of the Trumbull kids. So thank you for being here and for sharing your voice.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, I just want to echo my colleagues' recognition of your attendance here, and I'm very curious. So do you track legislation, or how is it that you are aware of today's conversation, public hearing?
Yes, so I'm the member of the Trumbull's We the People team, and Senator Gadkar Wilcox does a lot of help with that and trains us a lot. And I found out about this bill through her and was very intrigued, and that's why I'm here today.
Well, you are a great representative, a lot of energy, and we really want to kind of capture and scale this. And you are so right about the connections between India and Connecticut, of which more recently have, I think, risen to the forefront. So it's something that we all will mutually benefit from, and we're looking to see how we will go forward with this. But do stay involved, and much to be proud of. Thank you.
Absolutely, thank you so much.
Senator Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you to the both of you for coming and testifying today. Yeah, I'm smiling because my daughter and son-in-law live in Trumbull. I have 2 grandchildren, and the oldest one is in 6th grade, not 6th grade, 6 years old. And I'm just thinking, in 10 years from now, or 8 years from now, she's going to be in high school, and she may be here where you guys are sitting, and maybe you guys will be sitting here listening to her testify. So thank you for coming up and just participating. So thank you.
That would be great. Yeah, thank you.
Next up, I have Thomas Abraham, Global Organization of People of Indian Origin, Connecticut chapter. Apparently that person is on right now. The next up is Anke Finger, Professor of German Studies. I guess I should start with a Guten Tag and encourage you to testify.
Guten Tag. Thank you very much for having me, dear Chairwoman Hartley, Mr. Chairman Meskers, distinguished members of the committee. It's a tough act to follow, these wonderful testimonies of students. Hopefully we'll see you at UConn. My name is Anke Finger, and I'm Professor of German Studies at the University of Connecticut. I'm the director and co-director of 2 dual degree programs, Eurotech, now in its 33rd year, and Eurobiz, its younger twin, already mentioned by Senator Maroney. I testify in strong support of Senate Bill SB 132, an act establishing the Connecticut-Germany Trade Commission. I believe the establishment of such a trade commission is an excellent proposal to promote and boost Connecticut's economy, and it is especially important in the current moment. It is also a much welcomed strengthening of ties between Germany and Connecticut, especially the state of Baden-Württemberg, that started in 1989. In my function as director of Eurotech and Eurobiz, I help our students who receive a BS in engineering or business and a BA in German studies, so 2 degrees, to become a potential member of Connecticut's international workforce right out of college. Our graduates emerge with technical mastery, international experience, bilingual communication skills, and cultural fluency, making them uniquely competitive in a global workforce hungry for exactly this type of talent. Eurotech and Eurobiz are embedded in a strong network of multiple units that support our students' careers from the very first semester. They include the German Consulate General in Boston, also already mentioned, the German-American Chamber of Commerce, very strongly represented in New York and privately in Boston, the German Embassy in Washington, D.C., the German programs in our school, and to top the number of Senator Maroney, the 150 German companies in Connecticut, a list of which I'm happy to share together with an interactive map we're currently building. They welcome our students as interns already long before they graduate. Alums from both dual degrees are now in leadership positions at major international companies such as MTU, BMW, IBM Papst, Trumpf, Stopa, or SAP, and they continue to contribute as mentors to new generations of students. The establishment of a Connecticut-Germany Trade Commission will not only promote and boost trade between Connecticut and Germany, it will also send a signal that Connecticut remains a trusted and globally engaged partner even in times of uncertainty. For these reasons, and seconding Senator Maroney, I hope you will support SB 132 and act establishing the Connecticut-Germany Trade Commission. I thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much for your testimony. I think it goes without saying that Germany has provided the United States a incredible workforce over the history of the United States. The influence of Germany in the 1800s, whether it be in Texas or Milwaukee or St. Louis, it's one of the largest population groups in the country. And now, with its noted leadership role in core Europe, I think it's important for us to reach out for what they have developed and continue to develop in the way of industrialization and machining and their center in their development in core Europe. So I think anything we can do to increase the relationship, I highly would support. Are there any, when we think about the Trade Commission itself, do you have, given your background as a professor of German studies, do you have, Senator Maroney gave us a fairly robust list. Do you think that that was in general comprehensive? Or are there any recommendations of other groups we might want to consider including?
I would think we would start with bringing German companies to the table. I've already had a meeting with Jan Sutherland. I've talked extensively with General Counsel Dr. Kreibich. We fortunately had a meeting hosted by Henkel last March, where we invited a whole host of German companies from the area. And one model we can look at, and maybe Senator Maroney and I can get together to discuss that, is the Alabama-Germany model, for example. They have a very robust relationship that's connected to Atlanta and the Ministry of Economics in Baden-Württemberg. So there are numerous models, and we would hopefully want to figure out what's best for Connecticut, given its strong representation of the German economy and its connection over 30 years of strong relationships in higher education and in business.
Well, thank you very much for your testimony. Are there any questions from the committee? Hearing none, my co-chair is telling me those are very good recommendations, so I'm taking notes. Sometimes I get coached, so I appreciate that. I think that concludes our online presentation.
Thank you
I
very
don't know
much.
that we have any other speakers who had signed up to speak who are here. Is there any other business before the committee, or anyone wanted to bring anything up to us? Hearing no other, I call for an adjournment of the meeting. Seconded? We are adjourned.